Let me tell you something that most people will never admit to themselves. The alarm goes off, and in that exact moment, that foggy, half-conscious, still dreaming moment, you make a decision that shapes the entire architecture of your day. Not just your morning, your whole damn day, maybe even your whole damn life. Because what you do in those first seconds after your eyes open tells you everything you need to know about the relationship you have with yourself. Are you the person who hits snooze and negotiates with your own potential? Or are you the person who rises deliberately, powerfully, with intention and says, today, I am in command of this reality I'm building? I've spent years studying consciousness, not just as an abstract philosophical exercise, but as a lived, breathing, daily practice. And I'll tell you this without any hesitation. The early morning hours are the most psychologically potent window in the entire 24-hour cycle. This isn't mysticism. This is neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and the lived testimony of nearly every high-functioning, deeply creative, deeply awake human being who has ever walked this planet. And yet most people sleep right through it. Most people trade the most powerful hours of their existence for an extra 45 minutes of fragmented, restless non-sleep. That, to me, is one of the great tragedies of modern life. Now, before I go any further, I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want you to think about this and tell me in the comments below. What does your morning currently look like? Not the morning you plan to have someday, the morning you actually had today. Was it rushed? Was it reactive? Did you reach for your phone before you even reached for a full breath? There's no judgment here. I've been there. But I want you to be honest with yourself, because that honesty is the first crack of light through which real change enters. So drop it in the comments. Tell me what your morning looks like right now. Let's have a real conversation about this. Because here's what I've come to understand after decades of exploring human consciousness, reality tunnels, and the mechanics of personal transformation. The way you begin your morning is a ritual, whether you design it or not. You are already performing a ceremony every single day when you wake up. The only question is whether that ceremony is serving your highest self or slowly, quietly, unconsciously dragging you deeper into a version of life you never consciously chose. Think about the biology for a moment. When you wake up, your brain is transitioning out of the theta wave state, a deeply creative, highly impressionable state of consciousness that is almost identical to the hypnagogic state experienced during deep meditation or light trance. In those first moments of waking, your subconscious mind is still unusually accessible. The filters are down. The critical, analytical, socially conditioned part of your brain hasn't fully come online yet, which means that whatever you feed your mind in those first 15 to 30 minutes is going directly into the deepest layers of your psychological operating system. Feed it anxiety, news, social media, argument, comparison. That's the seed you're planting. Feed it silence, intention, movement, gratitude, focused thought, entirely different harvest. This is not a small thing. I want you to really sit with that. The very first inputs your nervous system receives in the morning bypass your usual psychological defenses and land directly in the subconscious. You are essentially in a self-hypnotic state every single morning, and most people are wasting that state or actively poisoning it. Every scroll through a feed full of outrage and envy. Every rush to respond to someone else's priorities before you've established your own. Every cup of coffee consumed while staring at a screen full of problems, you are programming yourself. You are conditioning your own nervous system. And then you wonder why anxiety is the background hum of modern life. I started waking up early, genuinely early, before the world got loud, not because some productivity guru told me to. I did it because I discovered something almost sacred in those hours. Between approximately 4:30 and 6 in the morning, the world is a completely different place. The noise hasn't started yet. The demands haven't begun. There are no notifications, no social obligations, no performance required. It is just you and the raw, unfiltered fact of your own existence. And in that space, you can hear yourself think in a way that becomes nearly impossible once the day accelerates into its usual frenzy. The research supports this viscerally. Studies on cortisol rhythms show that cortisol, the body's primary alertness and stress response hormone, peaks naturally in the early morning hours, typically between 6 and 8 a.m., in what's called the cortisol awakening response. This is your body's built-in performance enhancer. It's not stress in the negative sense, it's biological activation. It's your system gearing up to function at maximum cognitive capacity. Early risers who align their most demanding creative or intellectual work with this natural cortisol peak report dramatically higher output, better decision-making, and greater overall feelings of competence and control. You are working with your own biology instead of against it. But let me go deeper than biology, because I'm not interested in just optimizing you like a machine. I'm interested in waking you up genuinely, philosophically, existentially, waking you up. Because here's the deeper truth about early rising that nobody in the productivity space seems willing to say. When you wake up early, with intention, in silence, you are making an existential statement. You are saying, my life belongs to me. Not to the notifications, not to the boss, not to the culture's constant demand that you be available, reactive, and consumable at all times. For that 1 or 2 hours before the world claims you, you exist purely for yourself. And that is an act of profound self-respect. Most people have never experienced what it feels like to have 2 completely uninterrupted hours of mental space before the world begins. Most people go from sleep directly into reaction mode. Phone, email, social media, news, obligation, rush, reactive, reactive, reactive from the first second of consciousness. And then they wonder why they feel like life is happening to them rather than being directed by them. The early morning is the antidote to that feeling. It is the one place in modern life where you can still be the author rather than the audience. Now, I want to address the resistance, because I know it's there. I know some of you are saying, I am not a morning person, and I want to respectfully challenge that belief with everything I have. Because in my understanding of how human beings construct their reality tunnels the systems of belief and habit that shape what feels natural, possible, or impossible, almost nothing is more powerful or more limiting than a fixed identity belief. I am not a morning person is not a biological fact for the vast majority of people who believe it. It is a story. A comfortable, well-worn, deeply grooved story that gives you permission to stay exactly where you are. Chronobiology shows us that roughly 25% of people are genuinely evening chronotyped in a way that makes extreme early rising genuinely difficult. But 75% of people who claim they are not morning people are simply people who have not yet become morning people. That is a very different thing. Habits are not personality traits. They are grooves worn into behavior by repetition, and they can be regrooved with sufficient intention, consistency, and crucially, a compelling enough reason. Which brings me to what I think is the most important question about waking up early. Not how, but why. What are you waking up for? What is the thing that is worth rising before the sun? Because without a why that genuinely moves you, a project, a practice, a vision, a creative work, a quiet meditation, a body you're building, a mind you're expanding, the alarm is just an annoyance and the snooze button is perfectly rational. The why must come first. The discipline follows from desire. For me, those early hours became the time when I did my most serious thinking and writing. The world's noise, the political theater, the cultural static, the endless human comedy of competition and opinion, none of it had started yet. My mind was clear, limber, and unusually open. I found that the ideas that emerged in those hours had a quality I couldn't replicate later in the day. They were less filtered, more honest, more genuinely mine. There was no audience yet, no social performance required, just raw thought meeting blank page. If you are a writer, an artist, a thinker, an entrepreneur, a student, those early morning hours might be the most valuable real estate available to you in your entire life. Let me also say this about the physical dimension, because it matters enormously. What you do with your body in the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking has a cascading effect on your neurochemistry for the rest of the day. Morning sunlight exposure, getting natural light into your eyes within the first 30 minutes of waking is one of the most powerful neurological anchors available to you. Andrew Huberman's research at Stanford has shown that morning light exposure sets the circadian phase, elevates mood-related serotonin, and helps regulate the timing of melatonin release that evening, making it easier to fall asleep and wake up the following day. You are essentially calibrating your own biological clock with a simple, free daily practice. Movement in the morning, even a 20-minute walk, elevates brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially fertilizer for your neural connections. You are literally growing your brain's capacity for learning and adaptation. Hydration is the other piece that people chronically underestimate. After 7 or 8 hours without water, your body is mildly dehydrated, and even mild dehydration has measurable negative effects on cognitive performance, mood, and focus. Starting your morning with water, not coffee. Water first is one of the simplest, highest return behaviors available to any human being, and it costs absolutely nothing. The early morning, approached with even minimal intelligence, can be a full-spectrum physical, mental, and psychological tune-up before the world has even asked anything of you. Here is what I want you to understand at the deepest level. Time is the one genuinely non-renewable resource in human life. You can earn more money. You can rebuild damaged relationships. You can recover from illness, setback, failure, and almost anything else life throws at you. But you cannot get back a day you have lived unconsciously. You cannot recover the morning you spent in a half-awake stupor scrolling through manufactured outrage. And this isn't meant to produce anxiety, it's meant to produce clarity. Your mornings are not just mornings. They are the opening chapters of the days that make up your life. And your life, viewed from a sufficient distance, is nothing but the accumulated sum of how you chose to spend your days. Waking up early, deliberately, intentionally, with purpose, is an act of taking authorship of your own existence. It is saying, I refuse to live reactively. I refuse to be a passive consumer of a reality that other people designed. I am going to carve out space before the world claims me to be genuinely, fully, consciously alive. And then I am going to take that quality of aliveness into everything else I do. I'm not telling you to wake up at 4 a.m. I'm not prescribing a rigid protocol. I'm inviting you to experiment seriously, genuinely, for 30 days with rising 1 hour earlier than you currently do and using that hour entirely for yourself. Not for work obligations, not for other people's demands, not for passive consumption, for you, for your mind, for your body, for the project you've been putting off, for the silence you've been starving for the version of yourself you keep meaning to become. And I'll leave you with this. The most awake people I have ever encountered, the most alive, most creative, most psychologically free human beings, almost universally, had a morning practice of some kind. Not because morning is magic, but because deliberately claiming the beginning of your day is a form of claiming your life, and claiming your life is the beginning of everything. So wake up, not just tomorrow morning, but now, in this moment, to the extraordinary possibility of what your days could become if you stop sleeping through them. Drop your morning routine in the comments. I want to know where you're starting and where you want to go. Let's build this conversation together. And if this landed somewhere real for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The world needs more awake people in it.